everyone. Welcome to Art and Talk. Thank you so much for being with us today. If you're new to us, Art and Talk is all about meeting artists and being inspired. We embrace the traditional arts and the spiritual arts to bring you diverse and quality interviews to watch and to be inspired by. If you've been watching us for a while, thank you. We appreciate your continued support. I'm Leslie Sue, the host for Art and Talk. So today our guest is a jazz vocalist, and we're going to be diving into her music and her musical journey, and we'll also be watching one of her recorded performances as well. So I'd like to welcome our guest for today, Yvette Norwood Tiger. Yvette, welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Leslie Sue. It's an honor to be on your show, and thank you for having me. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. It's our honor to have you here, and your platform is for artists. So we're excited to dive into your music and your musical
Great.
journey. I was reading in your bio, just to kind of like start off, that you in Detroit, that you're a native from Detroit, Michigan.
Yes, I am.
You grew up with a musical family. Your mom played the drums, which is so cool, and your dad played the
Yes.
guitar. Can you kind of take us back to kind of like the early foundations of music and how that evolved into you and jazz and being a vocalist and whatnot?
Sure. Sure. Well, it started with church. My mom and my father both they played in church. I grew up in the church, so I got to hear that. And in fact, the church that I grew up in, it's in Ecorse, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. There were a lot of musicians that came out of that church. So I was surrounded by music, including like the Winans and Tim Bowman, the jazz guitarist. He still attends there. In fact, my father was instrumental in helping him as a young man get familiar with the guitar. So yeah, it was a family thing. And then also growing up in Detroit, which is like Music City, I'm just surrounded by music. My mom was best friends with Dennis Edwards' mother, Dennis Edwards from the Temptations. So I would see her a lot. I never, that I remember, ever met Dennis Edwards, but I used to see his mom quite a bit. She was a nice lady, interesting. But so yeah, as a child growing up, very, very encapsulated by music. So I didn't know at that time growing up. I knew I loved music, and I liked to sing as I was a kid. My first listening audience were my little doggies out in the backyard. But I loved to sing, but I was so shy. I never really stepped out in public, at that young age. Not until I was much older did I go out in public and start singing.
And when you were singing, I love that how your dogs were your first audience. But when your mom and dad heard you singing and all the musical influences that you had, what was their input into when they heard you sing? Did they encourage you? What was kind of the vibe with that?
I have to tell you, because of my shyness and not singing till later in life, they never heard me sing live. Never until they're on their deathbed, because of my shyness, I never presented that to them, that there's something that I possessed and that I wanted to do. They might have known, but I never presented that to them.
So that wasn't until much later in life, as you were saying.
Yes, yeah, until in my 30s.
And the whole jazz influence, Yvette, how did that evolve in developing a passion for this and a voice for this?
Oh, wow. Let's see. Well, I love all types of music. And I guess I really enjoy performing jazz because of the improvisation of it. It's not a set program I have to follow with it. I could sing My Funny Valentine one way, and the next gig I could sing it a different way. I might want to speed it up some or add some scatting to it or something like that. That's the beautiful thing about jazz. And also, even just listening to instrumentals, I feel has some type of emotional healing, to it. Because even before I started singing jazz, I listened to a lot of musicians. They didn't have words to their music, like John Coltrane. Um, so, so even the instrumentals I enjoyed listening to. Um,
And that's really interesting, Yvette. So the instrumentals that you were listening to and enjoying, you also found a healing component. Can you just dive a little bit more into that?
oh, sure, yes. I mentioned John Coltrane. When I was in my 20s and I at first moved out from, I moved into living on my own, and, things that comes with being a 20-something-year-old, you're working and you're trying to find your way in life. And I would just listen. I could hear whatever was going on with that musician, or, John Coltrane or whoever it is. You can just hear it by the way they play their instrument and hold their notes, or whatever. And that's the other. It goes back to improvising. It's like painting a picture. It's not dot by dot. It's like you're all over the place if you want to be, with the music. And that's how some of the musicians were, and I appreciated that. And it adds a healing component, I think. You're hearing your emotions. There's not words to it, but you're feeling it. I think that's something very important about music. It's not just jazz, it could be any genre that does that to you.
It's almost like the instrumentation without the vocals um, kind of lets you really interpret it yourself, so to speak. Like, yes, you're within the
Correct.
yeah, that you're within the genre, but also you kind of go into your own space, and then you kind of
Right.
the healing. Yeah, what a beautiful way to view that.
I didn't really realize how much that was going on until the last CD that I wrote. I started taking some songs that I wrote on my last CD. I wanted to take some instrumentals and add lyrics to it. And there was a couple of John Coltrane songs that I took and I added lyrics to it. And after I added the lyrics to it and listened back to it, it was like I was channeling that person, that musician. And especially after I read their story of what they were going through during the time that they wrote the music out. So it was like, wow, I interpreted it what they were playing about. I didn't know it until I went and read about, that segment of their life of what they were going through. So
Can you give us a little taste, just off the top of your head, of some of the lyrics that you kind of channeled in that were related to what he was going through in the music? Anything off the top of your
well,
head?
yeah, there's one song called Equinox that he did, and I'm trying to remember the lyrics. It's funny. It's kind of hard to remember the lyrics when you're not singing it, but maybe I'll just a cappella a little bit of it. The sunshine, the moonlight in the heavens, the stars shine brightly. They all come together to give love, love, love. Our hearts beat, our eyes weep. When love's gone, our souls bleed deeply. Let's come together to give love, love, love. And as I did those lyrics, I used the title of the song, Equinox, because you have two opposite things going on. You have the sun and you have the moon, but they're both equal in a certain respect. And so that's what I based those lyrics off of. There's another song that he did called Dear Lord. And I wrote the lyrics out based on a Bible scripture, Psalm 40, 1 through 3. And that song, those verses came to me when I was sick. And, I just got through going through a brain tumor surgery. And so the verse that comes to me it's uplifting. And I'm like, why am I getting these? I don't feel like I'm uplifted. But if you keep repeating it, it uplifts you. And so I took a song that John Coltrane wrote called Dear Lord, and I put those verses in that song. And that's actually the song that it made me realize that I interpreted. I felt like I almost channeled him. That's when I read his story about the drugs that he was addicted to, and how hard he was having it. And then he had a spiritual awakening. And that's when he wrote that song. It was supposed to be on A Love Supreme. It didn't make it on that. Actually, he passed away before that song was released. But yeah, so it's very, music is magical as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's that magical element. And that was beautiful, what you just saying for us. So I just wanted to
Thank you.
So you have such a rich talent, and we're getting a really good feel for kind of being in your shoes and how things kind of develop. Yvette, now the shyness, it seemed like it was very prevalent. Can you share with us how you were able to overcome this and kind of meet this challenge to be the success that you are?
Well, it was stages. The first stage is just opening up my mouth to sing. My husband, he knew that I liked to sing. Well, I love to sing because he would hear me singing around the house, and it takes a special person if I feel safe enough to sing around someone, right? And so when I moved from Detroit to New Jersey, because my husband's from New Jersey, so I moved there to be with him. And I looked up jazz club, places where we could go hear jazz. And there was this place called El Lobo Negro, which was in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And so we would go there. It was like every Friday night, they would have a wonderful jazz concert in like an art gallery setting. And at the end of the concert, they would have a jam session. So my husband told the owner of the art gallery, Yvette likes to sing. So Leslie Sue, literally, they would physically get me up on the stage and make me sing, right? But what happened before that, a friend of ours who just recently passed away, he lives here in Florida. We went on a cruise with him and his family, and he knew I liked to sing. That's when I was comfortable enough to like do karaoke. And I figured, on a cruise ship, I don't know most of these people, so I could do karaoke. So one night, this gentleman's name was Larry. We were sitting in a piano bar, and he went and told the piano player there, he says, I have a friend who wants to sit down and sing with you. And he said, oh, bring her up. I'm like, Larry, no, don't do it. Don't, because the place is packed, and so the piano player started playing I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. Well, Dolly Parton, Whitney Houston wrote it. Whitney Houston performed it. And as soon as he started playing, I just felt like, okay, I could do this. So I went over to the piano player and I made him move over. I sat down on a bench because I didn't want to stand up. I was, in that shy spot. And he just played and I just sang. And the crowd, it was like a Nirvana experience. It was like I was out of my body. And the crowd was so nice. I guess it takes a few drinks to, the crowd were drinking, but they were so receptive, and it was like, wow, this, I got the energy from that. And I was like, wow, this is great. So after that cruise, after I got home, I was in a grocery store And this man and this woman, older man and woman, they were shopping, could tell they were husband and wife. And he came up to me. He says, you know, if you want to sing, I have a recording studio. I just looked at him. I'm like, what did you say? I've never met that man before in my life. I said, why did you stop me and say that? He said, oh, you look like someone that I worked with in a recording studio. I just want to know if you wanted to come to my recording studio. It was like, wow. I think it was God trying to tell me this is where you, you know, you should be going. So there were little things, big things like that that would happen that would let me know, you know, maybe this is what I should be doing. So after a few years of doing it, I still had my shyness about it. You know, I would be scared going on stage until maybe the first few notes and then I'm okay. But it was like 5 people could compliment me and say, oh, you sound great, you know. But if one person came up with something to me and I took it as a negative about how they felt about my singing, all the other 5 compliments would go away, you know. So I had a gig coming up in New Jersey. I had to fly back from Florida back to New Jersey to do a gig, and I was feeling nervous about it. And I prayed about it. I said, God, you know, what do you want me to do? You want me to sing, or you want me to just go off, you know, and continue doing the other things that I do, my day jobs? And I heard a voice say to me, whatever you do it for my glory. All the accolades you get, give it to me. All the criticism you get, give that to me as well. Just go and sing. Just whatever you do it for me. And I was like, wow, you know, and after that happened, all of the shyness and the nervousness just went away. And it's like now I feel like I'm more at home on stage than anywhere else. And the more people that are out in the audience, the more comfortable I am. And it's amazing. It's because the energy that I'm getting from whoever is out there in the audience is amazing. I find it easier to perform to one person that could be sitting in the audience than hundreds of people in the audience. Hundreds of people in the audience, it's like, wow, I'm at my living room, you know, in my living room, you know, and it's just amazing, amazing to me.
Yes. What a beautiful story of transformation, Yvette. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah. From the whole Nirvana cruise ship experience and
Yeah,
your husband kind of pushing you. And it seems like you were getting all these like little pushes from people, and then,
yeah,
hearing God's voice, and what you were told, and then a lot of the shyness, started to disperse, to eventually feeling, as you said, that like you're the most comfortable now on stage, and the more people in the
yeah,
audience getting that energy and that feedback, how beautiful that's played out for you in that
yes,
capacity. Yeah.
yeah.
Would you be able to describe, before we look at one of your recorded performances, how would you describe your vocal style?
Um, I would say it's like on the almost subliminal, you know, it's like on the quieter scale, you know, if you go from soft to big booming voices. I mean, I could go into booming if I need to, but I'm more comfortable, you know, in the mid softer ranges. Well, one of my favorite vocalists is Ella Fitzgerald. And the reason why I like her voice, I love her voice, is like her childlike innocence. Even as she got older, you could still hear like a childlike voice coming from her. And I mean, I don't want to compare myself to Ella Fitzgerald, but I feel I have that similar thing with the childlike texture and volume to the voice, you know.
And let's go ahead and take a look. Speaking of Ella Fitzgerald, let's look at One of your recorded performances, Tisket a Tasket at the Royal Albert Hall in London. Do you want to share anything about this before we take a look?
Oh, it was an amazing experience. It was I did an Alla Ella CD, and so I took it out on tour. It was a 2018, I believe it was. And, you know, I didn't have a booking agent. I still don't have a booking agent. But what I would do, like I started at Kravis, I would rent the facility and have a concert. And I contacted Royal Albert Hall and I said, you know, I like to rent your facility and have a concert. And this is my budget. And they wrote back, they said, we can't afford you. I mean, you can't afford us. You know, your budget is nowhere near where you need to be to perform here. They said, but we're going to hire you to perform here. And that, to me, that's amazing because they don't hire performers without booking agents at Royal Albert Hall. And that was my first performance outside of the US. And it was a tribute to Ella Fitzgerald. And so when I get to the facility, the venue, who do they have hanging on the wall? The photo of someone hanging on the wall, right where I'm going to be singing, is Ella Fitzgerald. And they didn't put it there, you know, for that particular event. It's just where they have her photo. So you'll see her peeking behind me in the video as I'm singing a song that made her famous. She took that song and she put the lyrics to it and it made her famous. So hopefully you enjoy it.
Yeah, beautiful. Give me a moment and let's go ahead and pull that up.
I know you better to my mom. I know the way I drop her. I drop and I drop her. Yes, the way I drop her. A little girl, you get up and put it in her. You know, down here, not a single thing. Taking all around, when she cried it on the ground, she took it. My little yellow basket, and if she doesn't bring it back, I think I'm gonna cry. I lost my yellow basket, and if that girlie don't know what I'm doing. Oh, gee, I won't do where my basket can be. I wish that little girl I could see. Oh, why was I so careless with that basket of mine? That itty basket was a joy of mine. A basket, I lost my yellow basket. Oh, somebody help me find my basket, make me happy. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Just a little yellow basket. Just a little basket.
Fun. We had a lot of fun with that song.
Yeah, such great energy.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when you were there, that was really another kind of magical experience, almost like transcendental, almost like the same as in the grocery store that you were sharing with us a little while ago, Yvette, where this man walked up to you and about the
Yeah.
recording studio situation.
Yes, it was a magical evening. I felt I wanted to take some of the musicians that I knew there. So I had Mr. Ken Burkhardt, he's a pianist, and I took he was in high school at the time, Michael Mackey on trumpet, And so it was wonderful, not just for me, but it was wonderful to watch them, because they never traveled outside of the US before, never performed outside of the US before, of course. Like Mr. Ken Burkhart, he looked at the piano. You saw the red piano in the video? He said, this looks like something Elton John would play on. Well, just so happens that was Elton John's piano. He played on it, and then he dedicated it to Royal Albert Hall. So it was like, wow. And just watching a young man like Michael Mackey, I think he was 17 years old at the time, just watching him grow and just be amazed at performing in other countries. You know, we stopped in London, and we went to Berlin, and then we went to Brussels. We performed there. That was the Ala tour in Europe. So it was not just a blessing for me. It was wonderful to watch them as well. You know.
Yeah. And I was also reading in your bio, Yvette, that you also sing in like 6 different languages.
Yes, I do. I can't speak in those languages. You know, heaven forbid if I get lost in Rio de Janeiro. All I can say is "mais ganada," or sing the lyrics to the song. Yes, I had a fascination, still do, with different languages, and that's something that I love to do with music, is explore those languages from from composers who've written songs, that, you know, I learned the lyrics and I learned the meaning of it, but to speak in those languages and understand it, if it was speaking back, you know, if people are speaking it back to me, very little can I understand it. But I like having the instrument of music to be able to say that, you know, to sing those lyrics. And I like to see the faces of those people who know those languages, appreciate it. Of course, I don't do it without mistakes. I'm sure it's like if you hear someone coming from another country to the US, how their English is not perfect. You know, the same for me with other languages as I'm singing it. But what they do, the people who understand those languages, they appreciate that that they're hearing someone from another, you know, that speaks English singing their language. So
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I'm also wondering, Yvette, when you're singing in a different language, is there any difference in feel and execution for you as opposed to in English?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Because I learn what the meanings of those words are. You know, I don't just sing them for rote. So they, just like I'm singing in English, you know, if there's an emotion to a song, I'm singing a love song, you know, I'm going to emote, you know, that feeling that's coming through the song. Well, the same for the other language songs that I sing. There is a song I do, quizás, 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 which means perhaps, perhaps, perhaps in Spanish. And I learned that from Celia Cruz. I learned it from listening to her. And of course, if you ever seen her perform, you could see the emotions that, you know, not just the body language, but just the tonality of the vocals that are coming out. And I learned the meaning of the words. And so I have fun with it. I also performed that a different year at Royal Albert Hall, and I play off of it with my musicians, you know, like perhaps, quizás, 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 and even though the audience, a lot of them don't understand that language, they know what I'm singing or have an idea of what I'm feeling just by how I emit those lyrics to them.
Mhm. And, you know, I have to say, only because we have the knowledge that you were saying, you know, about, I'm just going back to the shyness, and then we just watched, you know, one of your recorded performances at the Royal Albert Hall. Like, one would not think that. You just look, I was watching And I'm just like, you just look so comfortable, so at home, so in your element, so in joy, just, sharing your love, sharing your gift.
Oh, thank you. Well, that comes from that conversation I had. It's like, just do it for me. That's what God was saying. And that's basically, what I do. I just go out there and this is it. This is me. So, and I enjoy it. And I feel that the audience enjoys it more when they don't feel that there's a sense of nervousness or shyness, in a musician or a vocalist. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. And I'm also wondering, you also enjoy bebop and Latin jazz. Can you touch a little bit upon those interests and passions that you have with that?
Oh yes, absolutely. Well, I love the Latin. I love the beats, the sambas, the bossa novas. I just like the different beats of the music, which also ties into some of the um, bebop music. Just hearing the beats it almost takes you back to those islands or those countries where they originated from, like Girl from Ipanema. I almost feel like you're sitting on a beach in Rio de Janeiro. So there's songs like that. It transcends, it takes you to where those songs came from. It's like traveling through music. So that's really what I appreciated about it. Bebop, I love bebop. Um, for a long time, wasn't really a fan of singing bebop, but I challenged myself with it. I just did a concert at the Arts Garage titled Tribute to Bebop, for the love of bebop. And as I got to know more about what bebop is, a lot of people think it's fast syncopation, but it's not really. It came out of a time frame it's a subgenre of jazz. Now, before bebop came along, you had big band music. And during World War II, a lot of the musicians had to leave to go and serve in the war. That's where bebop started to originally, like in the 30s. And then you had trios, or you had quartets. And you rarely had a vocalist, those war musicians that also brought about improvising, because you didn't have a vocalist. So the instrumentalists, they would play off of each other. And that's really, to me, that's the foundation of bebop. So that's very interesting. So to take something that wasn't really meant for vocalists and start adding vocals to it, it was, I had fun with it. At first I was a little challenged by, I'm like, oh, how am I going to do this? Taking a song by Wayne Shorter and adding vocals to it, or Dizzy Gillespie, singing their songs. They could go fast. One person that I know who could do it without error was Ella Fitzgerald. She was great with bebop. She would add her scatting in there to emulate the instruments. As the instruments are playing off of each other, she would do it with her voice. So it was amazing. Amazing to hear her do that. So that's one of the things I love about bebop, is adding my voice to it and having the instruments play off of that.
Mm-hmm. That's exciting, bringing your voice to it and having all the instruments play off of it. And I'm getting a really strong feel, Yvette, that you really love, kind of going back into just the whole jazz and whatnot, is that a sense of like improvising and that playfulness, and it's always going to be different. It's going to be, here it might be slower, here it might be faster. That kind of ties into your creativity and not always wanting it to be like a fixed way. There's almost love of the spontaneity of the moment.
Right, exactly. That hits the nail right on the head for what jazz means to me. It's not a song. I mean, like I say, I enjoy other genres of music, but something about jazz is that it can be different. One particular song could be different the next time you hear it, or you hear another person playing it or singing it, and it sounds different. Same lyrics, or maybe not. It could be the same melody with different lyrics, but that's the beauty of it, you know.
Yeah. Tell us now, once you broke through so beautifully with your shyness and feeling comfortable, feeling like you're in your living room as you're performing in front of a large audience, how did your voice start to change, or your perception, your stage presence, anything with your musicality? Once that was like set in, like, okay, now that's not an issue anymore, I can do this, you have that confidence. What else changed for you?
Well, it was a freeing experience. You know, like I said, now it feels like, you know, I just invited you over to my house and we're talking back and forth or whatever. And instead of us talking back and forth, we're singing, you know, singing to each other or whatever. So it's just I guess it's a sense of freedom with it. And the energy of it, you know, that I get from it. So I don't know. It's something I enjoy doing now. It's not something I fear doing. Although I love to sing, it's not something that I fear doing in public.
And I want to touch upon, while we're still rolling here, to congratulate you, because at the Cultural Council, when it was the opening for the gathering, where I had the pleasure of meeting you and having a chance
Yes, same.
You were one of the recipients of the 2020
Yes.
Artist Innovation Fellowship Award. Congratulations with
Thank you. Thank you. I'm amazed still. I truly appreciate it. I want to thank, you know, if they're listening, thank the Cultural Council of Palm Beach County for doing that, for recognizing me with that award. It's such an honor to do that. And in fact, what's going to come out of that is my 4th CD, a tribute to Bebop. So, so that's what I'm going to be working on as a fruit, you know, from receiving that award. So.
Wow, that's so exciting. Oh, what a great honor to be the recipient of that.
Yes.
What have we not touched upon in your music and your musical journey, Yvette, that you would like to share with us?
Well, before 2013, I would say, music was, me singing, it was a hobby. And my day job was doing interior decorating work. I worked for Ethan Allen and some other companies doing that as well. And in the fall of 2012, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, a meningioma. And even after I had surgery and radiation for it, it was benign, but because of the size of it and the location of the tumor, the doctor, the neurosurgeon heavily suggested I get radiation for it, which I did. But even after that, I went back to get a follow-up to see how everything was going. They said they couldn't remove it all because of the location the remaining part of it was in. They couldn't get it. And because of that, they didn't expect me to live much longer. They expected that any second I could just expire, you know. But that's been like 9 years now. And I feel that it was like 2013, 2014, I was starting to recover back from it. And I felt at that time, and I still do, I felt like God got me through something miraculously. And I decided the music wasn't just going to be a hobby anymore. It was going to be my job, or not necessarily my job, but my mission. You know, I felt that this is what I'm set out to do, and this is what I'm going to do. Got rid of my drafting table, my design stuff, all of that, and said, all right, this is my passion. I feel this is what I'm here to do. And so whenever I'm performing, I tell people this story about what happened to me before I go into a song, which I think you're going to play. It's called A Song for My Father. And I let people know, like, hey, look, I'm not perfect in any sense of the word. I'm not perfect. And God did that for me. He kept me here, for this. And he kept me here and I say it's to bring it to you so that if you're going through something, it's for you to be encouraged so that you know that miracles do happen. You're standing looking at one. So that's what I take it all over the world. In fact, I didn't start singing in any parts of the world other than the US until after I had gone through what I did with with the brain tumor. So that is my mission.
I so appreciate you sharing that, Yvette, because that's a huge amount to experience in terms of treatment and recovery. And so through that whole miraculous experience and the healing that you received, and still being here, thankfully sharing your gifts, sharing your passion, which we are all grateful for. So now your music since then has become also a message, as you were saying, of encouragement and of hope, and of upliftment as well.
Yes, correct. Yes, I think it's very important. Before that happened to me, it was like, oh, I'm just going out and I'm singing, and that's, I'm just performing. But now to me is more than that. Is to bring hope to people. And like I said, I grew up in the church. And there are certain ideologies out there that believe, if you're in the church, you only sing church music, and for a while there, I thought, well, maybe I should just be singing church music. God got me through this. Maybe I should just be singing gospel music, Christian music. And God said, no, Yvette. He says, church people listen to church music. He said, I need you to bring people to me. And so that's why he has me Royal Albert Hall, the Kravis. He said, just sing. And I'm singing music that I feel in my heart, music that I love, and people can relate to it and they could see it. So when I tell my story, there's even more of a connection there, that there's trust, that they know, that is, I'm singing it truly,
And, I think that a lot of people who are watching this could probably relate in their own way. Perhaps they're in a situation where they are in an artistic, creative expression, and maybe they brought it up, further than a level of a hobby, or perhaps it's at that level, or perhaps they have had some success, but maybe they haven't taken it, Yvette, to the level of, yes, I'm going in 100%, and that it's a calling, from their heart, that they know that this is what they want to do. But, there's issues of trust, and there's issues of, hey, bills have to be paid,
right,
and how is this all going to work? So you kind of go through all this, but for those who are watching or in that type of boat, so to speak, and want to bring that ship onto shore, you have any other words that you would encourage them to say, yes, just like go for it, have that confidence, have that trust, because you have done that. And I would love to hear what you would have to say in terms of advice.
Sure. Well, sometimes I come across people that I feel they have talent, but they're not living in it. And they express that they don't feel fulfilled. I said, well, what would you do with your life if you didn't? What would you do for work if you didn't get paid for it? It didn't matter if you didn't need to get paid for, what is that one thing that you feel you're here to do? Do it and trust. And it's interesting that you say that boat. get out of the boat and walk, you have to have that trust that if God gave you that gift, do what you need to do to open that gift and share it with the rest of the world. That's the other important thing about having a gift. You have to share it with the rest of the world. That's what I feel we're all here for, to do.
It's beautiful, and I appreciate that, you sharing that and offering that sense of encouragement. We do have to wrap up the show. The song from my father, we will include that in the video description so people can definitely see that.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. This has been such a great journey into your music and how you've evolved and your passion and your gift and all that you've experienced. And as you said, being a living miracle, that's such a wonderful blessing. And now that you're sharing your gift all the way and, for the glory of God, it's just really so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Um, so that people can stay in touch with you, can you share with us your social media links? And if there's anything else, as we close out the show, we like to let our guests provide any closing comments. So anything else, Yvette, you'd like to share and your links so we can stay in touch.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you on that significant night at the Cultural Council. So thank you so much, Leslie Sue, and I wish you all the best with Art and Talk. And it's an honor to be a guest on Art and Talk. And if anyone wants to get in touch with me, my website is Yvette, Yvette, NorwoodTiger.com, and it has my email address and my cell number and everything there. Also, I have a Facebook page. You just type in Yvette Norwood Tiger, and you'll get my Facebook page. And again, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to my husband, Stephen Tiger, for pushing me those times and just for being supportive of me and my music. And I want to thank also, again, the Palm Beach Cultural Council of Palm Beach County, again, for awarding me the fellowship. That was so nice of them. And I hope I make them proud with it.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure that you will, Yvette. I have no doubt about that. And good luck with, you're saying that's going to be your fourth CD that you're going to kind of put that
Yes.
concentration and focus on. So we'll be excited to find out about that. So stay in touch and let us know when that's out, and all the different things will be out on the horizon for you.
Yes. And one other thing, in addition to being a vocalist, I founded and produced the Palm Beach International Jazz Festival. And that will be taking place. The fourth annual one will be April 3rd of 2022 at the Kravis Center.
Oh, very good.
So hopefully you can join us.
Yes, absolutely. Be on the lookout for that. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much, Yvette, for being our guest.
Thank you.
It's been awesome to connect with you. And again, much success with everything. And thank you for sharing your beautiful story and
My pleasure.
And sharing your gift with everyone. Thank you so much.
You take care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching Art and Talk today. We appreciate the time you take to watch our artist videos. Stay connected with us on our YouTube channel and on Facebook. And we'll talk soon on the next Art and Talk. Until then, be well and be blessed.